Well, I think it was a part of the journey. I didn't know that. But because I ended up being a person who ran training departments, it was an accidental career. So I was always trying to discover, what does it take to help people to learn, to grow? And I found that training was not fulfilling because people would love the classes, but then as soon as what they tried, they felt awkward, they go back to old behavior. So retention of learning is very low. And so I kept trying to research and study and find, what does it take? I got better at training, but it was still never enough. It was actually the day that I was leaving my last job, I'd already resigned, that somebody sent me this article on this new thing called coaching. It was 1995. And I thought, this sounds interesting, I'm not sure. And so I went and I saw a coaching demo, and I said, there's something different here. So I signed up for a coaching school right then and dove into it and started researching how coaching impacts the brain, and found that was what was the missing link, because coaching works on a different part of the brain, and that you can create this sustainable change that I could not do by just training, by just telling them what it was. So it was just a synchronicity that it showed up that day. Well, that article led me to, there was only 2 coaching schools, and actually 3, but one was very tiny. So there was only 2 known coaching schools. That was Coach U and CTI. And so the article was actually the founder of Coach U. So I joined Coach U. And many of those people who were my teachers have become my long-term colleagues for now decades. So that's where I first learned coaching. But where I really learned coaching is doing it. Just consistently being a coach. And every time I coach, I learn more. Well, that was just a part of one of the classes. Mm-hmm. I think the class was called Being a Coach. And it was talking about knowing who you are, not just what you do. So if I don't know who I am as a coach, then I'm your thinking partner. Then I may get stuck in, you need my advice, or what's my value if I don't give you advice. So I need to be very clear on who I am and step into that, is that I'm being your coaching partner. I'm not just implementing coaching skills. So knowing what I do, that it's valuable, and having faith in that and sticking to that is an important part of coaching. I'm really grateful that at the same time that I found coaching, it was just a year later that Daniel Goleman came out with emotional intelligence. And because I'm an instructional designer, that was my second master's, I designed a program. And I ended up getting work right away because I was one of the first coaches to have a website. And when the US government came to me, they said, we need someone to teach this, and all we could find are you and Daniel Goleman, and he costs too much. So I really dug into emotional intelligence and what that means. And to be emotionally intelligent, you have to be fully self-aware of your emotional state and to be able to shift how you feel. And so I learned by teaching the whole recognizing when I tense up, that's an emotional reaction, and shifting into courage and care, patience, compassion, shifting my emotional state is the most important thing. So since I learned it way back, it's become practice, that the moment I feel any tenseness in my body, whether it's out of judgment or out of fear, I just breathe into it and choose how I want to feel instead. It's the emotional state that keeps me present not thoughts. That's such a hard question, but I find that the coaching that has turned out with a bad result was always when I realized that the person didn't know what coaching was. So they had a different expectation of what I would do. So once I thought we had a really good coaching session, and it was a chemistry session, and he chose the other person because he said, well, she asked me really good questions, but the other guy gave me all these tools and resources, and and I like that. Well, he wasn't really looking for a coach. He was looking for a trainer, mentor. And I realized that if I'm not the one selling the coaching, that the organization is selling it, I better know how they're selling coaching. Are they selling what I do, or are they selling something else? So that helped me to make sure that the person I'm talking to understands what my style of coaching is. But there was another time that the senior vice president was told he needed coaching from the CEO, and he started the session by telling me how great he is. And I said, that's nice, but I was hired to help you work through your challenges. He said, well, my only challenge is the CEO. And I said, well, I can't coach the CEO. He's not in the room. I can only coach you and how you deal with him and how that impacts your work. Are you willing to do that? And he said yes, but he kept going back to, it's not about me, it's about him. And he was never really willing to give that up. And eventually, I think we had 3 sessions and he disappeared because he wasn't engaged in coaching. So I've recognized that if I have a chemistry session, is not just that you might hire me, but it's a session for me to decide if I want to coach you. And if I don't feel you understand what coaching is and you're not going to commit to it, then you're not my client. So, yeah. None. First off, I think it's an interesting question that remote coaching would make you want to take more notes. I think that that's a justification and not a reality. Why would it be different? Why do you think you need to take more notes if it's online? Doesn't make sense. So the thing is that as you're taking notes, you're using a different part of your brain, you're analyzing, you're trying to remember, that it's taking away from your presence of being with the client, plus they're looking at the top of your head and not you. If you need to just write, if it's somebody who talks a lot and you need to write one word, that you want to remember, a keyword, one word here or there is fine. But don't be writing full sentences. And you need to trust that you will remember, that it stood out enough, you lock it in your brain and it's there. So every coach that I've ever mentored and they were taking notes, I said, could you just put the notes down? They often will, I can't, I need them, but then they put them down and then they coach brilliantly. I've never seen anyone get lost because they couldn't take notes. So you need to trust yourself more. Team coaching is becoming more and more important. It has for some time. And I think that, corporations are saying, wow, I need to align the team and create things together. So I think team coaching has become very popular. I'm also seeing a lot more pools of internal coaches. So companies are hiring external for the top, but they're training internal people to coach full-time or coach part-time. It's not just HR and talent development. It could be leaders even that want to learn it. So I work with a lot of internal coaches, pools of coaches. I teach them or I work with them one-on-one. And I don't see them stealing my work away, because if they really are bringing coaching, and coaching cultures is another trend. If they're really bringing that to the company, then there's always going to be a place for me to coach at the top. So I think coaching cultures, internal coaching, and team coaching are the biggest trends.